Hello, it's Anita Watts again. I am back. I've been away for about 3 weeks now, not on vacation. My mom passed away, and I told my church family last week I had picked up the Sunday school book the week before and tried several times to study, and I just could not concentrate. And I appreciate them so much. They lived out that last unit that we had been studying before Mom passed about why I need the church. They showed in true Alexandria Baptist Church fashion. They showed me why I needed the church. I received calls and texts and cards and food and hugs. Yes, even during COVID time, I received hugs from my church family supporting me. My pastor was the best, even with some unforeseen circumstances with the graveyard. It's just been a lot of craziness, but everybody has been so supportive. And this unit is going to be a great unit also. It is After God's Own Heart, a fresh look at the Ten Commandments. Um, like I said, I've missed a couple of weeks, and the first one was Place God First. And it was God is to have first place in every aspect of life. Of course, that is for the first commandment to always keep God first. And then the second week in this unit was to honor God. And it says our relationship with God is seen in how we honor Him. And tonight it is session 3, and it's to honor our parents. The point for the lesson is honor for parents is seen in our words and in our actions. You know, in today's society, family relationships can be hard. You can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. You've heard that saying. It talks about the difficulties that can occur within families, but God calls us to rise above such conflicts, particularly in relation to our parents. In spite of how we may feel about our father and mother at any given moment, God calls us to always treat our parents with the honor He says they deserve. Our passage this week is from Exodus 20:12 and 2 Samuel 15:7 through 14. Um, the Ten Commandments are divided up into kind of foci. I want to say focuses, but the English teacher in me cannot let me do that. So it's the foci, several different focuses, if you will, of the Ten Commandments. The first 4 commandments, 1 through 4, focus on a person's relationship with God. And then 6 through 10 deal with our relationship to each other. Humans, men, women, boys, girls, our relationship with each other. But commandment number 5, the one we're focusing on tonight, is kind of a bridge. It talks about honoring your father and your mother, but it's a bridge between the two because a child learns reverence for God by first learning respect for parents. You know, as a retired teacher, I began to see in the latter part of my career that parents had taught children less and less respect for adults. I saw children who didn't respect their parents, nor did they respect people in authority at school. So if we don't teach them to respect ourselves as parents, and we don't teach them to respect any other adults, how will they ever learn to honor God? That made complete sense to me in this week's lesson. We're going into looking at King David's family, basically to see how his son Absalom rebelled against him. And this is not a lesson about how to honor your father and mother. It is a lesson showing the exact opposite. Absalom did not honor his father. But first, we're going to go to Exodus 20:12. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Okay, I'm going to tell you something. I've been guilty just recently. I remember saying this to my two grandchildren who were arguing with their mother. And it happened to be after church one Sunday morning, but we were still at church. And I looked at them and I said, honor your father and mother, that your days be long upon this earth. Okay, first of all, I misquoted the verse and I took it out of context, because the context for this doesn't mean an individual will have a long time on this earth because they honored their father and mother. It is that the Israelites, their days would be longer within the land that God had given them. He was telling them, honor your father and mother so that I will continue my protection of you. So it's not necessarily just, okay, you do this and this will happen. It is honor me, honor your father and mother, and thereby honor me, and I will bless you in this land. God designed the family as the foundational unit in society. He planned for parents to help children grow to maturity. So it makes complete sense that on the other end, he would expect children to help their parents when they can no longer take care of themselves. The word honor comes from a Hebrew root that means to be heavy and carries the meanings of weight, honor, and majesty. It's used both negatively and positively. Negatively is an example of a heavy burden, and positively it's heavy in wealth or respect. So in ancient times, a person who was heavy with possessions was very wealthy. But on the flip side, someone who had become old and frail might have become a burden. And the reason God was having to address this is because he knew that we would not, why would we? Why would we not? Because we've never done what we were supposed to do. Look at the Israelites, that's who he's talking to. They had gotten into this rut of, okay, I'm going to serve my Lord. Something's happened. I'm scared. I'm going to worship idols. Because they'd grown up in a culture of worshiping idols. God was still new. And even though they had grown up and been raised to worship God, they were still struggling with that. So he had to constantly, okay, come back. Let me show you something else. This will help you too. Well, what is honor really? The Greek word for honor means to value highly, to hold in highest regard. This holds true at any age. There may be disagreement regarding the age when children are no longer required to obey their parents, but children never reach an age when they don't owe their parents honor. I know my daddy used to say, you may be bigger than I am, but I can always take care of you. Don't worry. In other words, I'm still in charge. I am still the head of the household. God made it unequivocally clear that honor and respect are critical elements in every home. God is serious about honoring parents because God understands the whole picture. He knows it is not simply about having a good day or a peaceful home. Honor is tied to advancing his kingdom on earth. It is not about being wealthy. It is not about making sure our parents are wealthy. It is just that respect and concern and love. Now, let me make this perfectly clear. This command does not require someone to remain in, accept, or condone an abusive relationship. In such a case, honoring one's father or mother may involve removing oneself from the abusive environment and forgiving the abusive parent in one's heart. You know, if you grew up in an abusive household and teaching in school, I've seen many children who have either been neglected by their parents or abused by their parents or hurt by their parents, and it was just not safe for them to stay in that home. God would not expect those children to go back to their parents and take care of them in the end. God does expect them to forgive those parents. You need to be safe if you're in that environment. So, taking yourself out of, or someone else taking you out of, an abusive home, God would never require us to go back to that because our parents needed help. God just expects us to forgive them in our hearts and then move on with our lives, living as much like as Christ has shown us to live as we possibly can. In the next verses, we see that we are to act with truthfulness and integrity toward our parents. This is where we get into the story I told you that we are not going to learn about truth and integrity. We're going to learn the exact opposite. You know, sometimes it's better to use a lesson to show you how to do it. Sometimes it's just easier to show you how not to do it. And that's what God chose to do in this story. 2 Samuel 15, 7 through 12. And it came to pass after 40 years that Absalom said unto the king, I pray thee, let me go and pay my vow, which I have vowed unto the Lord in Hebron. For thy servant vowed a vow which I abode at Geshur in Syria, saying, If the Lord shall bring me again indeed to Jerusalem, then I will serve the Lord. And the king said unto him, Go in peace. So he arose and went to Hebron. But Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, As soon as ye hear the sound of the trumpet, then ye shall say, Absalom reigneth in Hebron. And with Absalom went 200 men out of Jerusalem that were called, and they went in their simplicity, and they knew not anything. And Absalom sent for Ahithophel the Gilonite, David's counselor, from his city, even from Gilo, while he offered sacrifices, and the conspiracy was strong, for the people increased continually with Absalom. Okay, that's a long passage, but I didn't want to interrupt it. But I'm going to go back to a little bit before these verses and tell you what's going on. Absalom was a child by, I believe, David's third wife, and his full sister was raped by their half-brother Amnon. So Absalom was angry and killed his brother, or was trying to kill his brother. I can't remember. But David sent him away. He didn't kill him. He was trying to kill him. And David sent him away. And during this time, he stayed away for 3 years. And during this time, David is telling Absalom is planning in his heart his revenge against his father. We don't know for sure why or how, but we believe it could root in that betrayal by his half-brother and his father not really addressing what his brother did to his sister. Remember, that sounds terrible to us, but remember, back during this time, women were property and were treated as such. So there wasn't always an investigation and figure out who did this, and there was some kind of retribution because of the status that women had at this time, even the king's daughter. So he's been away now for 3 years, and then David calls him back. But even though he comes back, he doesn't go all the way into, David doesn't bring him all the way into Jerusalem. He just lets him come back. into the Israelites' land. And he does not see his father again for 2 more years. So it's been 5 years for him to create this plan on how to get back at his father. Absalom was the heir apparent to the throne. He was David's oldest son. He would, upon David's death, take over the throne. But at this point, Absalom doesn't want to wait. He wants to plot and overthrow his father. So all these 5 years, he's been plotting that. And when he comes home to see his father, in verse 7 it says that he said unto the king is David, his father, I pray thee, let me go and pay my vow which I have vowed unto the Lord in Hebron. Hebron was the first capital city for the Israelites. It has a lot of meaning for them. It was the original walled city. A lot of prayers were prayed there. A lot of people went to Hebron to pray to the priests there. So it wouldn't be unusual for someone to want to go to Hebron to pray. And so David, being the father that he is, allows his son to go to Hebron. Now, his reasons for going to Hebron, because it would be foolish for him to attack his father in Jerusalem, where all of his allies were. So his plan was to go to Hebron, where there is this big wall where he could be protected. And on his way there, he starts turning the people away from his father. He would run into people that were on their way to see the king to get their disputes settled, and he would say, the king's not at court today. He doesn't have time for you. But when I become king, you trust me. I will be there. I'll take care of everything. So he's kind of planting the seeds of doubt in the hearts of the people. And then he's going around and he's telling everybody, when you hear the trumpet call, then you're going to know that Absalom reigneth in Hebron. Okay, so not everybody knows what's going on. Some people might think, well, okay, when the trumpet blows, that just means that David has died. Maybe Absalom has legitimately risen to the throne. But he sent those spies throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying that to everyone. And then he took with him, when he left Jerusalem to go to Hebron, 200 men went out of Jerusalem. And it says that they were called to go with Absalom. David sent them with Absalom. And they went in their simplicity. It means they did not know of Absalom's plan. These were David's close allies that went with Absalom, not knowing what was going on until they get into Hebron, and then they become like captives of Absalom. Basically, they were kidnapped by Absalom. And then we get on down here and we talk about Ahithophel, who was David's close counselor. David had a lot of respect for him, and he listened to him, and he was a very close ally counselor of David's. It doesn't specifically tell us in the Bible why Ahithophel would join with Absalom. But as I investigated further in our lesson, I found out that Ahithophel is most likely Bathsheba's grandfather. Remember who Bathsheba is? David lusted for her, had an affair with her, got her pregnant, had her husband killed. So Granddaddy may still be a little perturbed with David over all of that. And that's why he's willing to support Absalom. We are to honor the parents God has placed in our life. I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. See, I'm still having a little trouble concentrating. To further understand what it means to honor parents, we're going to look at a particularly... Nope, that's not it. I am so sorry. Hang on. I'm almost there. Yes. In the next verses, we see that honor seeks the welfare of parents. 2 Samuel 15:13 through 14. Remember, this is still the opposite of what we're supposed to do. Absalom absolutely did not seek the welfare of his father. And there came a messenger to David saying, the hearts of the men of Israel are after Absalom. And David said unto all his servants that were there with him at Jerusalem, arise and let us flee, for we shall not else escape from Absalom. Make speed to depart, lest he overtake us suddenly, and bring evil upon us, and smite the city with the edge of the sword. So David finds out. A messenger runs to David and says, everybody's wanting Absalom. And so David said, all right, we got to get moving. If he comes here, he's going to attack the city, and that's going to put everybody in danger. If he finds out that I'm not here, he'll calm down, and there won't be the other people in the city will not. He said, I'm the one he wants. We need to get out. So he and his counselors leave. And we don't read about the rest of the story, but I'm going to tell you what happens. David and his counselors leave and go to prepare to do battle with Absalom between Jerusalem and Hebron. And it was interesting to me what the story happened was that as they're headed toward each other, they're about to meet. Absalom's, not all of them, but some of the people that went ahead of David, was about to meet up with Absalom, and David had told them to deal with him gently. Don't, be careful. Don't hurt him if you don't have to. It is still his son. He does not want his son hurt. But Absalom is coming to kill David, and his counselors know it. So what happens is, it says that they're coming along on this road, and Absalom's head gets caught on a low branch, and while he's caught trying to get himself untangled, David's men kill him. So that ends Absalom's overthrowing of the throne of David. But it just shows us to what lengths a child will go to dishonor their father and their mother, to exalt themselves. He wanted to punish David because of what he saw as his mistakes, but he also wanted to lift himself up. It wasn't just about revenge. He wanted to take the throne. He was selfish. One way that we can help our children to honor us is by honoring them. We do that by admitting to them when we fail and seeking to correct the situation. Confession, honesty, and integrity on our part encourages a lifestyle of honor. It's embarrassing to be caught in a mistake with your children, but instead of trying to cover it up and act like you knew the real thing all along, it's better to just say, we all make mistakes and I'm sorry, than it is to try to. Kids know. Kids can see a fake a mile away. So the best thing to do is say, I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. I'll try to do better next time. Because that is the example that they need to see of how we are going to deal with their mistakes. They need to know that they can't just say, oh, I didn't mean to. I'll do any better. I'll do better next time. They need to know that we're all going to make mistakes and we all need to face up to them. That's the way they learn to be accountable. Parents who are always covering up for their children or covering up for themselves, and that's the behavior their children learn, those children never learn accountability. And that's the reason we have problems in our society today, is because children grow up without having to take any kind of accountability. And then they become adults who had to do that as well. I'm going to share with you some things that our author put in here about ways we show honor to our parents. The first way is emotional honor. We honor our parents by spending time with them. It doesn't matter if they're in a retirement home or if they're in their own homes or if they're in our homes. You know, parents can be in your own home and feel lonely because we don't even spend time with them even there. They're just an object. Parents want to be talked to. You can have a parent in a retirement home or in a nursing home who doesn't feel lonely because, first of all, you've picked a good place for them, a place where they are honored and loved and protected and cared for, and because you are there checking in on them on a regular basis. That's how you honor your parents. Verbal honor. When I went home and I didn't say my father, "Hey, Art, how's it going?" It was "Yes, sir," and "No, sir." This is our author speaking. He didn't go, when he became an adult, he didn't start talking to his father like another adult. He still showed him respect in how he spoke to him. And then we can do financial honor. Sometimes our parents are on such small pensions that they have difficulty getting by day to day. We can honor them by helping them. Maybe that's finding the right agencies to help them. Maybe they're not destitute for money, but they can't go anywhere to get what they need. Maybe you need to do that. Maybe you need to provide a delivery service to them. Today, above all, it's so much easier to do those things. You know, we've got Instacart and Walmart grocery pickup, and Walmart even has grocery delivery now for a small fee. So there's all kinds of things we can do for our parents. All parents, unfortunately, have done things that made it difficult for their children to show honor and respect. I believe that one way we help our children to honor us is by honoring them. It doesn't matter. Forget the past. Like I said earlier, if it's abuse, that's a different story. But just because they did something to make us mad doesn't mean that we don't still honor them. I know every situation's different, and that is between you and God. But you have to honor your parents to the best of your ability. Dear Lord, thank you so much for the gift of our parents. Thank you for reminding us in these verses that we are to honor them, Lord. We are to teach our children to honor us, to respect us, so that when they get older, they will honor and respect you, Lord. And that when we get older, they will have that honor and respect for us. Dear Lord, be with us as we go into these next few weeks. Help us to continue to see the numbers of COVID-19 drop, Lord. I miss seeing so many faces at church, and I look forward to the day when all of us will be back together worshiping you. In your precious name I pray. Amen. Speaking of church, we are there at 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings at Alexandria Baptist Church at 175 Stadium Drive. If you're not able to come, you can also see on our YouTube or Facebook pages. You can look up Alexandria Baptist Church, and you'll see this as well as our pastor, Brother Dean Pierce's message on Wednesdays and Sundays. Thank you so much for being with me.